Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the PIC. This will be the 13th Process Innovation Challenge. We're going to get a chance to see some of the innovations going on in our industry. You might have seen the program. We have a really good final for you today. Chris is going to kick us off. He's going to talk about workflows. Magdalena will talk about QA. Olivier comes in, software localization world. You're going to hear about that, what's going on there. We're then going to find out about multimedia and in-context magic with Jack. Konstantin, of course, is going to talk about neural machine translation in some form, wait and see. And Sara wraps us up with a look at inappropriate language, which, I've heard some already here last night, so, we'll fix that today. Welcome to all our innovators, and nice to see some new faces and some familiar ones. Welcome to all of them, and welcome to PIC 13.
And you're probably not wondering, but in case you were, I'm Alex Burnett. I work for LocWorld. This is Dave Ruan of XTM International. We're thrilled to be here. Thanks to LocWorld and XTM for supporting this innovation platform. I did want to briefly mention, we also want to thank Multilingual magazine. Once again, they will be offering a prize to our winner. And so thank you to Marjolein and the whole Multilingual team for doing that for us. So.
It's final time, folks. We've done the preamble. Watch, enjoy. If you haven't been here before, you'll pick it up as you go along. You're going to see innovations. You'll get a chance to vote. Good luck, innovators. Let's get the show on the road. So Chris, join us on stage.
Hi, everyone. So every localization workflow starts with the client, who has to go through a number of manual, repetitive steps to get their content out of their systems, until finally the project manager enters the scene and also has to go through a number of manual repetitive steps just to get the project started. And that's before the linguist even gets anywhere near involved. And so we've got this kind of 30 minutes for the client to export their data. We've got 30 minutes for the project manager to kind of get the project set up. The linguist then does their work, and then we had the mirror process with the project delivery and the kind of import of the content back into the content system. And so we want to replace this with a system where the data source itself triggers the content change when new content has been added or modified. We will then do the processing automatically, the extraction and the formatting. We send that to the TMS and the BMS simultaneously, so that everything's in place for the project manager, who can then hand it to the linguist, who can then deliver it back to the project manager. And then closing the project in the TMS will also automatically send it back to our platform so that it can be reformatted and published directly back to the content source. And so here we're in a scenario where there's no client involvement at all, because we've removed all of the manual repetitive steps that they absolutely hate doing. And this leads to higher customer satisfaction, and which leads to more repeat business. And they're no longer the bottleneck in this process, which means that they increase their transactional volume by at least 8.3%, basically because it just happens automatically for them. The project managers are also get this productivity boost because we've also removed all of the manual repetitive steps that they hate doing. And we go from a 120-minute process to a 4-minute process, which is a whopping 2,900% productivity improvement. Said another way, that's like going from 8 jobs a day to 96 jobs a day. And we're also standardizing the process because you've got this matrix of TMSs and connectors and BMSs that can all work together. Also, the LSPs are profitable because the sales conversations are all about, do you have this connector at this moment? And we see some of our LSP clients who add $1 million kind of overnight because they're able to sell the solutions that their customers are asking for. And so we have connectors in production right away. We have language tools that are available to use, and we're constantly adding both connectors and language tools so that we can be super operable with all of these different variations. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Well done, Chris.
I made it through.
You made it
Time.
through, yeah. It's 3 minutes, folks, so it's fast, right? Let's see what the dragons have to ask you, Chris.
Thank you so much. I'm trying to see like what is the unique selling proposition for this middleware, because of course there's others out there, right? So tell us what's different.
I think what's different is being able to combine a whole bunch of different systems in one process. So there's the connector side, yes, but there's also the TMS side, and there's also the BMS side. And it means that you can have a standardized process that works across any combination of all of those. We also see scenarios where LSP clients come with their own TMS, and you have to fit that into the LSP's process somehow, and this kind of caters to that scenario.
Hi, Chris. It's working. Hi, Chris. So do you view this as tailored for an LSP or an enterprise? Who is your ideal client?
Both can use this platform. I think LSPs get an additional benefit from it because they get to kind of centralize their processes, but language teams also get the benefits of automation. Yeah.
So connectors is a very complex word, right? They can be quite deep, have a lot of functionality, they can be quite shallow. What do you mean by connector? Do they all work the same, or do you have categories of them based on what they do, or can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so there's really a wide range of kind of domains that connectors can operate in, and they all work very differently. They all have different kind of triggering mechanisms. Some of them have ways of notifying us when something changes, others don't. But part of this platform is actually kind of standardizing all of this communication and having a single process that does work in a consistent way across all of the data connectors.
Great. Well, thank you, Chris, and thank you, dragons. Well done. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chris, and we'll welcome Magdalena onto the stage.
Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Magdalena Wójcik with Argos Multilingual, and I would like to show you how we introduced AI to the back translation process. So let's start with talking about what back translation is. It's a part of the linguistic validation process. It's required for the industries of life sciences and pharmaceuticals ones. And actually, it's required because it poses like this unique advantage. It's equipped for finding semantic difference between the source and the translations. And we thought, liking that unique advantage, what if you automated that concept and introduced it into a QA process outside of the original use case? So let's see how this process traditionally works. So we start with the translation. We then go into back translation, which is performed by the linguist. It's just translation back into the source language. The third linguist in this process gets to perform a review that consists mostly of comparing the source and the back translation. So this traditional process has some drawbacks. First of all, it's fully manual, it's expensive, and it's not scalable. And for the review part, it's actually requires a lot of focus, and it's prone to emissions. So let's see how we fix that. So we start still with the translation. However, the back translation part we are giving out to MT, which is 1,200 times faster, we counted. And we are also aiding the review with our AI algorithms. So these are POS and NER algorithms that help with increasing accuracy, but by lessening fatigue and just generally aiding with the review. And let's look at the algorithms themselves. So you can see here a comparison between the source and the back translation. The top one is the output of the NER algorithm, named Name Entity Recognition Algorithm. Which searches through the sentence and finds whether they are like chemical names or substance names in the sentences. The bottom one shows us the dependency graph of the part of speech algorithm. That basically shows us the dependencies between part of speech elements in the sentence. So we have a third algorithm on top of that that is comparing these two and finding out whether they are sufficiently similar. And this is actually the output of our algorithm. These two sentences are scored as containing high probability of containing an error. And you are invited to find why AI might have thought that there is an error there. So to sum up, we have introduced new scalable QA step for any industry and content type. We have used MT, which enabled us to do faster and cheaper back translation. We have used AI algorithms to improve accuracy and decrease fatigue during the review. And for the future, we would like to use MT tailored for client's content, expand on current algorithms, and hide maybe even correct segments from the review at all. Thank you, everyone.
Magdalena, you have some fans in the audience.
Really? Oh, that's
Well
great.
done.
Thank you.
Let's see if you have some fans in the Dragon's Den.
I can start. Hi,
Okay.
Magdalena.
Hi.
So how does this vary by the countries? So does this AI impact all countries equally, locales equally, or do you see variations?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the quality of our AI will depend on the MT we use. And this is obviously something we know that MT sometimes doesn't perform as well for example, some Asian languages. So to have the best quality of the whole QA process, we need to use MT that is just tailored to these particular languages. Thank you.
So aside from the language aspect of the scalability, extensibility, flexibility, how can this be broadened out? How can this service be used by other industries? Can it be customized by clients, or where are you going with this, and how are you enabling your clients to build on it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we would like to offer that to all of the clients that really need to have additional step in the QA workflow to be able to pick up on semantic differences. And we have highly customizable algorithms, namely, for example, our named entity recognition algorithm can be customized to different kinds of entities. So that one you saw was appropriate for the pharmaceutical industry. However, we can train them on any kind of data from the client to pick on important entities. So yeah, basically all of our clients that really need to have this highest quality of translations.
About data, since we're talking about data, what kind of data do you need or do you use for training these models? Is it generic data like all your clients, or is it client specific?
Mm-hmm. So part of it is generic. We can, for example, use the generic NER algorithms. However, we can train them also on the client's data. As I said, it's highly customizable. The part of the comparison actually is very dependent on the client's needs. So we would like to train that on the client's data to have the best ability to compare.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dragons.
Okay.
Well done, Magdalena.
Yeah, thank you very
Good
much.
job. Thank you. Moving swiftly onward. 3 minutes questions. 3 minutes questions. Olivier, join us.
Hi, Our patent pending innovation focuses on software development and localization and addresses some issues around especially human delays, also cost and minimum charges, but developers should not have to wait for translations. Increasingly, the rate of deployment is really fast, and developers need to create applications that need to be deployed really fast, sometimes on the day. And then when you have an application that's deployed, how do you correct the translation that has been created by translators or TMSs or MT? So typically, our products sit in between a Git repo or some kind of repository where the application resides, and then a TMS. Sometimes we provide context there. But in this approach here, we first start with machine translation, which is pretty much immediate. And then as the application is deployed, you can make corrections to those translations. So that can happen in a QA step during development, or that can happen much later on when the application is even in the field. So developers, traditionally, they will add their files to a repository, and Localizer, which is one of our products, analyzes the files that are in the repository to detect which strings need to be translated. They send that to the translation engine, machine translation in that instance, which is returned pretty much immediately. And then Localizer updates the corresponding translated files in the repository so the application can be deployed with 70 languages if you want. So this is what happens if you have ENUS or American English as your source locale, and developers are adding some files there. A few seconds later, you will have the translation that is available to them in Spanish, French, German, and so on. How do you correct that? Well, we have a product called Localizer QA. That's really the innovation here. And that product communicates with Localizer, and Localizer in turn updates the files in the repository. What does that look like? Here's an application where a reviewer, a French dog with little mustaches or something from Christopher's presentation, is looking at it and says, Corvette? No, that's not good. Frégate, that's the good French. So that correction they want to make, they go to Localizer QA, they enter that correction, and that will make its way from Localizer QA to Localizer to Bitbucket or the repository. And so you are seeing here, Corvette has been changed to Frégate. Once the application is deployed, you will see the correction. So what are the advantages here? The first one is you get instant translation or close enough. And the second one, at different level of your deployment, you will be able to make corrections, and they will be handled automatically by a fully automated process down to the repository. Thank you.
So, Olivier, rebels with a cause, but the force is with them?
The force is with us, yeah.
All right, let's see if the force is with the dragons or they're from the dark side. Let's find out.
Uh-oh.
Thanks, Olivier. That looks like a very interesting solution. I would be interested in learning more about the access, the permissions rights that these linguists would need, since usually software development is a very secure environment and developers aren't very comfortable with strangers accessing their code.
No, we're not.
What are the requirements around that?
The requirements around who can use Localizer QA?
Who's accessing? How is that GitHub check-in
Yeah,
really
so
working?
typically it might be an LSP who has username profiles inside of Localizer QA. And then there are a number of tokens that can communicate back to Localizer, which itself has a certain security around from Localizer to the repo. So there is a whole chain of actual security around it. And also, maybe I didn't mention that, but it could be LSPs that are reviewing the application and the corrections, but it could also be somebody during the QA process for a linguistic review, or it'll be down the line. So it can be really right away, or it can be as the application has been deployed for a year, maybe.
Hello. Oh yeah, I'm on. My question is, once the update is made to the translation to the MT, does that correction then, that feedback, is that feeding into a TM, or is it training the NT? Where does it go? Like, does the error gonna repeat itself, or is it gonna be fixed?
That's a really good question. So We have different deployments. One of them is to update, first of all, the translation memory on the translation engine side. But then at some point, because training takes a little bit of time, at punctual times, you will decide to actually update the full engine with training based on the changes that were made from Localizer QA. Yeah, thank you.
One final thing, Olivier. Can I connect to any MT that I want?
So right now we have 4 machine translation engines, and we might connect to more. Yeah, you're welcome.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Olivier. Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Dragon.
Thank you.
The force is certainly strong with that one. Well, let's welcome Jack on stage. Jack, why don't you join us?
Hello. Hello, everybody. Hello, dragons. Today I want to talk about the challenge of context. I think we've all been there. We're trying to localize a string file, and if you look inside that string file, what you find is a lot of strings where there's a lot of ambiguity. Does home mean my home page, or does it mean where you're going to ship my purchase? Is networking connecting 2 computers or something different? And what does it mean when there's code inside of a string? This is challenging, but visual context can solve this. Here you can see that networking is not about Ethernet. It's about what we all did last night at the opening reception, right? So context is everything in localization, but it's also really, really hard. How do you get those visual representations so that you can help the translator understand what it is that they're translating, particularly when you have very dynamic, personalized, individualized experiences like e-commerce, like video games, like mobile apps? Well, the good news is if you can take a screen recording of your website, your desktop app, your mobile app, whatever it is, you can take advantage of Smartling's fully automated visual content extraction from video. Let's go to a demo. So here I have a file, and you can see that there's individual strings inside of that file. These are strings that need to be translated as part of an application. And I've uploaded those into a Smartling project. You can see there's 209 words that need to be translated from English to Chinese. Let's take a look at what the translator sees. So here's the cat tool experience, and you can see there's the strings that need to be translated. But unfortunately, there's no context. So how is the translator to understand how this all fits into the application? Well, guess what? I have a screen recording of the mobile app. So this is the Duolingo start. You can see that little red bubble in the upper left-hand corner that shows that I was just recording the screen while I'm interacting with the mobile application. I'm telling it, how did I learn about Duolingo? I'm telling it how much Spanish I know. I'm telling it why I'm interested in learning Spanish. And I'm just interacting with the app like this. And once I have that screen recording, I can go back to the Smartling project. And if we take a look at the context coverage over here, you can see there's only 0% context coverage. But I'm just going to upload that video directly into the project. And then you'll see that it's not only just uploading the video, but it is magically automatically extracting every single frame of the video and associating all of the individual strings with those individual frames without any duplication. It's a very intelligent machine learning approach to doing this. Once this is done, we can take a look at the context. Let's look at the context tab. And you'll see that that video was instantly broken apart into individual frames, and you can see that not only did it match the strings, it's also identified them, and then you can go through and see exactly how it's identified those strings inside of that particular application, just from a video. Now, if we go back to our context coverage, you'll see that magically it's 100% now. And if we look at what the translator sees in the cat tool here, let's make this just a little bit smaller so that people can see it a little bit better here. What you'll see is not only do you have all of the strings, but you have the exact context. So as the translator is tabbing and typing their translations, they can see exactly how it's supposed to appear and disambiguate any of the issues. In fact, even if we look at something like code, like instead of placeholder min per day, you can see that means 15 minutes per day, and how serious they are about this. This is really, really compelling. We've deployed it for over 500 customers, and we've seen a whopping 13,200% increase in context coverage since our launch. Thank you very much.
Jack, you've got a fan base out there as well.
Nice. All right. Thank you.
That's good. Dragons, questions?
Yes, that looks like magic. So who's actually,
Well, I can connect you with our sales guy. Tim, where are you? He's happy to chat with you about
Magic Dragon, yeah. Who's actually doing the work of recording the video and uploading it?
Yeah, anyone. Anyone.
Uh-huh.
Look, I mean, Smartling spent a decade perfecting visual context, whether it's HTML, XML, images, whatever, and associating and matching those strings. But even with connectors that are pulling it out of your e-commerce app or your marketing app or your whatever app here, sometimes it's hard to get to, particularly if you have an experience that no one else ever experiences. But anyone can record a screen. It's built right into your operating system on your Mac, Windows, Android, iOS. Anybody can record a video and then put it right up there. That's the magic of it. The translator should never have to translate without context. It slows things down. It leads to mistakes. You want to get it right the first time, and context is the secret sauce. Thank you.
Jack, that was pretty neat, I got to say. But it was
you.
all about text. So how are you handling other things that are context, right? If I told Salvo to take a load off, I mean have a seat, right?
Yes.
But if I had man gestures at a chair,
Yes.
if you're looking at the image data itself, is that someplace you're going? Is that something you've considered? Or is that already covered in this product?
Well, what's interesting about this, you may have seen in the image when I showed the second image that it actually captured things like the alert, the iOS alert that said, accept and cancel and things like that. And so anything that is a part of an accessibility experience where there's metadata around what does this image say, or for a screen reader that's appropriate, it's automatically going to capture that as well and associate it with it. And I would argue that without context, take a load off, who knows what you're going to end up with. So I think context is critically important. Thank you.
Yeah, that is important context. Jack, very interesting. So how do you envision in the workflow where and who is going to take these videos and who is going to do it at what time in the process? Will that add time? How do you envision all of that?
Yeah, in a perfect world, all context should be automated. As soon as the developer writes strings, and as soon as they have a web experience, a mobile experience, a video game experience, something in a third-party content platform, that should all be automated so that there really is zero overhead on that part of it. But we all know, because we've been doing this for long enough, that a lot of stuff gets sent to translators without context. Why is that? It's because sometimes it's just hard. I showed a mobile app, but I could also show a video game where literally no experience is the same from person to person, and text that pops up all in different kinds of places. And so this can be something that can be a catch-all, belt and suspenders to make sure that you're getting context for it. Does it take a little bit of overhead to do it? Yeah, but anybody can just push a button and go play a game. In fact, I'd like that job. I want to do screen recordings and play video games all day long and then automatically put it in there. Once that's done, everything else is done without any human involvement.
So,
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Okay, good job. So we're hearing about context a lot, interesting. NMT, we're probably going to hear about Konstantin.
Thank you. So, we all hate page not found pages. However, we see them so often that even not technical people in the audience know what 404 means, right? And for a business, it typically means a disappointed customer and a lost opportunity. But it's much more disappointing if you actually have this page just in another language, and if it's not your customer but your very teammate. So, today pandemic may be over, but these remote distributed multilingual teams are here to stay. And you may sell in English, but your team may speak 10, 20 languages. And that creates this new huge challenge of language accessibility and inclusivity for global companies. And sometimes it's even beyond that. It may be required by law that you have a native translation, for example, by the new Quebec language bill. But internet content is vast and it updates often, so how do you solve it? Well, one way you go to LSPs for human translation, but you will know that humans are slow and expensive. And even getting a budget for such a project may be a daunting task. And once you have it completed, easily half of your articles already changed and you got some new ones. So we made a better solution for that, which is Intento Translator, in this case for ServiceNow. It installs in a snap. It has this nice language switcher. And when you select your language, the visible part of your knowledge base is translated to your language on the fly and cached, so you don't have to translate the same sentence twice. But who needs knowledge bases without search, right? So our plugin also adds real-time multilingual search, so that you can search across your English knowledge base in native language and have results translated back to you in real time. It's not only about inclusivity itself. Many studies show that 80% of workers are more productive when they're communicated to in their native language. Language barrier is a factor of more than 25% on-the-job incidents in US. I'm not sure about Europe, probably more. And the same factor is why 60 to 90% of corporate training knowledge is forgotten. But you know that a picture may worth 1,000 words, so you sure do have pictures in your knowledge bases. What do we do about the pictures? Yeah, we can also do that. So the solution is available as an off-the-shelf plugin for a few popular knowledge-based systems. You can actually try it live on Intento Help Center, which for us on Zendesk. We have a few customers running it on ServiceNow and Variant. More to come. Please vote for us and come to our booth to learn more. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
See if I have the mic on here, Konstantin. So, yeah, very interesting. So, instantaneous neural machine translation. Let's take question from the dragons.
So in some ways, there is existing technology that could cover this. So what's new and modern about doing this that we've just seen versus server-side scripting in Apache circa 1996?
It's basically a way to make it easily available in the platform you're using in your enterprise. They have certain extensibility, and if you just arbitrarily do server-side scripting, like in ServiceNow, Zendesk, how you do that. So it's probably a hard thing. So we make it very, very accessible. So that's I think, very important.
So hello, okay. You mentioned that the translation, the MT is cached, so it does stick. So it's not every time you search and the article comes up, it's processed again. Once it's done once you go through it, it's there for the use, or every time you're machine translating it again?
So you may think about some sort of real-time translation memory, I guess, meaning that it cached for a while until you change your MT configuration. For example, if you updated the glossary, then the cache will be flushed. Or because of some, for example, you may have privacy reasons why you cannot cache it with some customer-related content. It may be cached for a certain amount of days in specific country. Otherwise, yeah.
Could you give us some insight on the financials? If I want to do this, what's the cost? Can you give us some ballpark or some idea?
You basically pay for machine translation. And because of this caching feature, we have customers, they spend 95% less on machine translation because of that. When we go complex, some pages you cannot really cache them because of, again, GDPR, but you can use cache from them. Then it's 40%, also a good one. And then there is, we develop software, we charge for that. But again, because of this caching feature, you do very few actual translations, and for returning from cache, we charge a little bit. So it's not user-based, it's volume-based. And yeah.
Great. Thank you. Just a second, Konstantin. Aki, can I help you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can I have the mic a sec? Sorry, folks, let me deal with this. Yeah, we're in the middle of the pick, Aki.
Yeah, sorry to bother you guys. I just wanted to ask a question to Konstantin, but I could not raise my hand, so I needed to bother you, Dave. Sorry about that.
What's your question?
Konstantin, so how do you manage people giving you feedback? And if you get feedback, what do you do with it?
Yeah, it didn't fit into the demo. So we actually have two ways to collecting feedback. So one of them is explicit feedback, where people just may select text and report the translation. and then we collect it and we send it either through our own interface or through TMS to linguists to work with that and to improve machine translation based on that. And second way is implicit, meaning that we're tracking some analytics so that a manager can see that, okay, some articles are more popular in those languages, and then they can request going this old way to do post editing for those articles. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Konstantin. And thank you, Aki-san. Great question. All right, moving on. And we have our last speaker today, Sara.
Hi, Dragons. Hi, everybody. So, it's not a secret. There is an increasing trend in brands that are more and more committed including and adopting inclusive language, not just to engage end users, but also to attract and retain top talents. And the data on the slide here shows how the lack of inclusive language can be really a killer in terms of brand recognition and also human resources. So there are top brands like Salesforce, Apple, United, and they are really committed and have already started adopting inclusive language, but also processes that empower people that have been historically marginalized through inappropriate actions and words. And the challenge for us in the localization industry is that it adds an additional layer of quality assurance to target texts. So think about the sheer volume of content that needs to be reviewed for appropriateness for all the possible target audiences. Also in terms of awareness and really transitioning to a more appropriate language, this is really not immediate. There are so many words that have been used for years without bad connotation, and now they're just being used really subconsciously. In the academic field as well, there isn't yet enough research around automatic detection of inappropriate language. There are so-called profanity filters in things like social media moderation or live chats, but really no solution for translators, reviewers, and copywriters to really catch inappropriate language from the get-go. So one day I sat together with the NLP team and said, look, I know we can solve this challenge, so how can we make it work? And this is where we came up with the automatic checks in terms of appropriate language in QA profiles in XTM Workbench. The innovation is based on the technology that powers this. So this is based both on rule-based dictionaries, algorithms, and neural network, machine learning neural networks. The rule-based algorithm is based on a dictionary compiled from publicly available resources published by NGOs, universities, and governments, while the machine learning was trained with a data set of more than 9 million tweets that have been annotated for inappropriateness. And its benefit is that it learns as language evolves and also helps us to recognize less obvious examples of inappropriate language. So far, we have reached an accuracy level of 91%, and we are, of course, thinking to improve on that. And finally, here you can see one of our earliest prototypes of these inappropriate language checks in Workbench. This is an example of a Polish to English translation, and here you can see how linguists and copywriters no longer have to reference offline materials like style guides or dictionaries. They can just see how inappropriate language is automatically flagged in Workbench, and at the same time, more appropriate variations or alternatives are also shown and suggested within the same workspace. So in terms of cost and time savings, it could really be huge. We plan to release this feature in a closed beta in Q1 2023. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Sara. Dragons, questions?
Yes, thank you. Is this customizable? Like, can, companies say, well, for us, this is an inappropriate term and we want to make sure it's flagged. Can that be added?
Yeah, it's a good question. So part of this is based on dictionaries, right? So we, of course, have our own publicly available corpora, but we can fine-tune these dictionaries based on what clients potentially may want to have. So in the first iteration of the feature, we're not going to make this customizable from the get-go, but that's definitely something that we don't exclude doing, yeah.
That's what I wanted to ask.
Me too.
Building on that, how does this really tailor languages that are used in multiple countries and their differences in culture, right? English for Americans is not the same as English for people in Singapore. And what we see as inappropriate in one place might be very appropriate in the other. So does this somehow map that language plus locale algorithm to determine that per demographic locale-based appropriateness?
Right. So if we look at the rule-based algorithm, so we really use dictionaries that have been created in the specific countries. So we've used, for example, things that have been published by Spanish NGOs or other resources in different languages. So we have this bilingual corpora, and they're really tailored to that target audience. But also we have the neural networks. So for now, this is English only. And this is really a way for the network to really learn and as language evolves. So even if the term or phrase is not included in the dictionary, then thanks to the neural network, then we can catch this still. And then what we can also do in the future, thanks to something like so-called interlanguage vector space, which is also a proprietary framework, at XTM, we can align vectors among languages. So even if we don't have a specified list of inappropriate terms in a specific language, we can map that through our own neural networks and then find the inappropriate variants in the target language based on the target audience.
And one final thing, is this feature in production today?
Not yet. So what we've seen on the slide was a prototype, and in Q1, so in the next XTM Cloud release, we're going to release it in a closed beta group. So we're going to use this as a chance to get feedback on, are we really suggesting the appropriate, really inappropriate terms? Like based on the test set, we've reached 91% accuracy, but it's a test set. And then once we get really validation from our beta testers, then we're going to release it. Thank you. Thank you.
That's it, right? Anyone know what happens next? Voting. Vote early and often, I heard someone shout.
All right, so let's walk through the voting. How does that work? So you as the audience are going to account for 50% of our total vote, and our dragons are going to vote for or consist of the other 50%. So they're going to give us a top 3. And we'll weight their votes so that their first place vote gets 60% of their vote share. Second place gets 30%. Third place gets 10%. You guys only get to vote for one, so vote for the Innovator of the Year. And so now we've got a QR code up here that you can scan. You can also open a browser on your phone, on any device, and go to slido.com, enter the LocWorld48 is your hashtag that will get you to the poll, okay? We will be verifying the results to make sure that there are not duplicate votes, so don't stuff the ballot box.
And don't tell your friends.
Exactly.
We're checking.
Yeah. So some people have asked too, we do not publish the final vote results. However, we do verify them with LocWorld founders Ulrich and Donna. They'll have a chance to see the results from us and verify that. And then tomorrow at our closing session for LocWorld in the afternoon, that's at 4:45 tomorrow afternoon, right in here, we will announce first the runner-up and then our winner. So don't miss it. Be here for that. Just want to thank XTM and also LocWorld for giving us this stage and supporting innovation in the localization industry. And thank you all for being here in attendance. Yeah.
Some people have asked us, hey, tell us a bit more about the innovations you're seeing. So we're just going to give you a little bit on what's going on there. And what we've seen is, in terms of the type of innovations of process technologies, there's kind of a divide, 50-50. Finalist countries, there's no particular patterns there. USA clearly is doing well. Then if we look at topics, and this is one that we've had many people ask us about, tell us about the topics, that's what we care about. It's very much what you might expect, right? So MT, number one trending topic in the past. How many picks?
13.
13. How do we say it properly? Fare. Fare.
Tradici.
Fare.
Tradici.
Very good. Quality, agile, localization model. Last few years, we've seen more of a shift into multimedia, as, again, you might expect, right? So this is indicative for us of what's going on in the industry. If you're interested in getting involved in the pick, just reach out, find us, look at our channels, which we're going to tell you about. I want to thank the advisory board who we have now to help us keep us on track, right?
Yeah.
We go off track from time to time.
Absolutely.
So they keep us on track.
They tell us to cut down the comedy relief, is what they tell us.
Yeah, that didn't work, clearly.
No, it hasn't worked.
Yeah, so we didn't listen to that one. And you can find us on the LocWorld YouTube channel. There's some great previous sessions there. So if you've missed previous picks, you may find some good content there. Our website, LinkedIn is a great place to follow us as well, and you'll find out the next thing we're doing, the next call for papers. So that's just a little bit of our pitch for keeping the pick going and getting involved. And we have still got time. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to do something different. We always try and do something different. And anyone remember Andrea Bellista? Come up here a sec. Come on. Up on stage. So
Go for it.
I'll grab this.
Yeah.
And Andrea, I'm going to ask you a question or two. So, yeah, please.
Thank you.
Say hello to everyone. Hello. So how do we say fare?
Fare 13.
Thank you. See,
O
that's
fare 12 anche.
Ah, perfect. So let me ask you, you won the pick in Berlin.
Yes.
What's happened since?
I mean, it has been a very nice journey. It's a lot of contacts, a lot of visibility. And for a startup, visibility has been a very, very important thing since things has been really spread it out through the room and in general through LinkedIn, and it's gained interest from potential clients and investors for a startup to grow. So extremely important, I have to say. Thank you.
And what does your innovation do?
Yeah, innovation is bringing, let's say, expressive voice content for synthetic voices. So it's able to, let's say, to voice the unvoiced content that is now usually subtitled, and is basically able to do machine dubbing, a kind of machine dubbing.
So hold on a sec. So
Yeah.
if I put my voice into the system,
Yeah,
I have a bit of an accent, right?
yeah,
Could you get me speaking other languages?
yeah,
Really?
yeah,
Like what?
yeah. Italian. You
Italian.
can do fare 13 perfectly.
Fare 13.
Yes. 13.
13.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank
Exactly.
you, Andrea. and
Thank
well
you so
done.
much. Thank you, and
Thank you.
good luck, boys.
Thank you. That's about it for us, I think.
Yep.
We want to thank our innovators. Look, a lot of behind the scenes work goes on. They're the stars of the show. Everyone did a great job, so thank you, everybody.
Yeah. And just to reiterate Dave's point from before, we're trying to grow the pick, so we want to hear from you. If you want to get involved, come talk to us, come email us. Continue to participate and encourage innovation in the industry. So we want to see you at a future pick. We will, almost as soon as this conference is over, we will open a new call for papers for next year. And I can't let the cat out of the bag yet, but there will be a LocWorld in June somewhere in Europe.
Where?
To be announced
Where?
soon. Nope, I'm not going to let it out. It will be announced. And so we hope you'll join us there and look to submit an innovation.